Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome our new webinar series brought from CIGen, a software development company specialized in Azure cloud consulting, DevOps, custom software engineering, and of course AI enhancement lately. With over 15 experts on board and clients across US and Europe, we help business modernize and scale through Microsoft Azure, and other clouds, of course. This webinar series is our way for sharing lessons, insights, tools, and from the fields that we know best. And today we are going to start with Azure building AI-ready cloud-native .NET apps with Microsoft Aspire. And we will get some insight for each case, what we have suggested and what we already know for sure that we have this in production applications. Just an introduction to me. Now, I am Avjol, a lead software engineer here at CIGen, with over a decade of experience in software development. I'm delighted to share a few facts and tricks about Aspire and Azure AI today. In this webinar, we will walk you through the features and advantages of .NET Aspire, including a live simple demo for particular takeaways that you can have. So let's get started. The agenda for today, what we will cover. First, we will have a look at why AI and cloud-native architecture have become a strategic priority, not just from technical point of view, but also from business perspective. Second, we will highlight the typical challenge developers face when building modern distributed applications, from orchestration to integration and of course development. There are some configuration in between, but yeah, we will have a look at them. Third is we will include you to .NET Aspire, Microsoft opinionated cloud-native stack for .NET developers, built to simplify exactly those challenges that most of the developers face. There will be an exploration of Aspire's key features. Think like service orchestration in C#, built-in telemetries, ready-to-use templates. After that, we will dive into Aspire integrations, both with Ollama for running locally with Aspire solution, and how to switch that Ollama into Azure OpenAI for cloud scenarios. Next, we will walk through a real use case, a small search app enhanced with AI, showing how Aspire helps bring it all together. And of course, we will look at the business values, what it means in terms of development productivity, onboarding speed, and of course, time to market is crucial. Finally, we will wrap it up with some Q&A. I will answer your questions and share some tips. So let's get started. First thing first, let's start with what is driving the shift. Executives are under pressure to deliver innovation faster and also faster and smarter. That means adopting the cloud for scalability, resilience, embedding AI to stay competitive. But modern enterprise applications aren't just a single service anymore. They are a full ecosystem. We are talking database, background services, Azure functions, messaging system, cache, API, front-end, back-end, and on top of all this, there is also a model for AI or AI layered. Orchestrating all this manually introduces risks. It's time-consuming, it slows things down, and everyone racing to build faster, smarter apps. But configurations and integrations still take too much time, often might take days or even weeks. There is That's where Microsoft Aspire comes in, because it provides a structured, opinionated foundation for building AI-ready cloud-native .NET apps with best practices built inside of it, so teams can just focus on delivering value instead of wiring infrastructure. So let's cover the pain point with additional applications and how development in a real environment. Manual orchestration is just about containers like Docker, Kubernetes, but there are many teams that still rely on IaaS hosting, configuration in IaaS, Docker Compose, or Kubernetes YAML by hand is very fragile. It breaks easily. Tooling remains fragmented, so we have multiple tools for just one project. Development setup, logging, tracing, monitoring, separated by each service, leading to inconsistency, overhead, and log error, of course. When it comes to AI, there is no out-of-the-box pattern. Adding OpenAI calls or other AI services usually means building custom code, configuration from scratch. And if you have to do this for every service, it's too much work and too much time. Plus a lot of duplication efforts also for other things. So teams repeatedly write connection string, resilience policy, health checks. Instead of reusing whatever it is a standard nowadays, they just have to customize it if they need to. All these slow deliveries and introduces risk through human errors, through configurations, or if there is something in your script that doesn't work right. So we are trying to minimize all these things and have a solution for it. So solution is for all these problems, of course, is Microsoft.NET Aspire. It's cloud native. It's designed for specifically for .NET application, but you can also include other applications like Node.js, Python, and Java if you need to. It delivers as NuGet packages along with CLI and IDE tooling, especially Visual Studio. I will show you a demo for that. Giving developers a high-level code-centric approach for entire application, not just individual service, but the full application. So here is an image with all the services that you might need for a web e-commerce. And this is all included in Aspire, in which is going to orchestrate everything for you. So, and with a single F5, you will start basically everything. And you don't need to configure this any time after everything is done. You just F5 it. For architectures or for executives, Aspire reduces risk for embedding proven best practices while simplifying scales and up growth in complexity. So if I want to have another service tomorrow, I just have to configure it once and everyone in the team is going to reuse it. Just easy. Plus, it integrates deeply with Azure services and AI capabilities, but remain open for flexibility enough to support other platforms or cloud services. Azure or AWS, whatever you prefer, you can deploy everywhere with Docker. So here is an example of what's with a manual versus Aspire way. The difference between manual orchestration and Aspire is days and night most of the times. With DIY approach, adding new service means adding Docker Compose or environment variables or environment files, completely logging, tracking, case by case if you need to, monitoring, of course. And this is what Aspire eliminate this friction. Developers just declare service in C#. I will show you. And Aspire just auto-generate configuration and deployment script for you. You just, if you need to just include AI integrations, it's simple. You just integrate, use the integration for AI, and you are ready to use it. Instead of manually calling Azure OpenAI or manually calling Ollama containers, Aspire offers built-in methods like add Azure OpenAI or add Ollama. The result is faster features. They are rolled out faster, fewer configuration bugs, reduced maintenance overhead, low cost, and saves time for business, of course. So the key feature of Aspires, I will show you this in demo, but Aspire in general is just a package, starter and scaffolding for common scenarios, plus the runtime that handles service interactions. Dev time orchestration is particularly powerful. You will see with just pressing F5 and Aspire will launch all these application for us, including here the dashboard. There are also a graph that is also showing all the services that we have built. There are console logs, there are structured traces and metrics. We will have a look at them in a demo. But its service default means that things like telemetry pipelines or resilience policy or any other things are not ad hooks anymore. They are built in and configured out of the box, and you have these features there without doing anything. This cuts down repetitive setups, helps new team members get productive faster, and of course, time to market is faster. We will have a look at this in the demo, but yeah, this is a screen of our demo later. Simplified orchestrator. Aspire follows a code-first approach, which means your project containers, dependency, front-end, back-end are defined in C#, which eliminate manual configurations. And you have to do this only once, and everything else will be there every single time. Auto service discovery ensures service automatically connect without needing any environment variables or files or editing anything for configurations. Aspires handle injection seamlessly. Monitoring Aspires is built in, which means that as soon as your app starts running, developers and operation teams or whoever can instantly open Aspire dashboard and it can have a look at everything inside of it, including here microservice. So every microservice will feed telemetry into unified interface, meaning that there is no need for third-party setups. There is no need for setup for logging, metrics, or traces. They are already there by default, so you just have to have a look at them. The dashboard pulls services via gRPC, so displaying live logs, configuration statuses, health metrics, you will have it there. We will see it in the demo, of course. For leadership, this means faster troubleshooting, clear visibility into running application without extra efforts, and then you can also debug it, which is better than everything. As about the AI, Aspire makes AI integration effortless, comes with pre-built connection for leading AI platform. Teams easily just tape into Azure OpenAI or OpenAI itself, or run model local like Ollama, for example. A key advantage is in this case is that there is an integration, which is an extension, which is Microsoft's extension AI, and this allows application to stay provider agnostic, so you can switch from Ollama to AI easy with just small configurations and not rewriting any of your code. For innovation, this enabled rapid prototyping, chatbot, AI power summarization if you need to. Machine learning predictions can be added seamlessly, and of course, more and more features are coming, so you will have more and more integration in there. Aspire transforms AI adaptation into configuration task, so you don't have to know everything about AI, you just have to configure it and use it. eliminate major engineering overhead, and accelerate development cycles, of course. So local Ollama for scenarios where your cloud API is expensive or Azure OpenAI is not cheap. If you have to use it, you still need to use it in development, testing, and production. So why not to save some money? So Aspire supports local AI. For example, by adding a few lines in program.cs, Aspire will launch your Ollama server as part of your applications every single time. And here is shown what you need to do to configure it. So you will need, if you need a chat and you will need an embedding, you're just using Ollama there for everything you need. And of course, this is beneficial of your web, but there are some other tools like VectorDB that are going to save your vectoring of your data. And there is a cache that you can reuse most of the data, so you don't have to take it every single time. The benefit is quick turnaround for your POC or your live development. Devs can play with languages or models. They can play it online or offline. It depends on your need and your case. Later, the team can switch from your Ollama into Azure OpenAI with just a couple of configurations. I will show you that. This flexibility means proof of concept in AI can be done without any cloud account or added cost, and it can be very, very fast. So the simple use case that we are going to show today is for an AI-powered search products, in which we will show you backend and front-end orchestration with Aspire. There are some semantic searching there with the chat. And of course, there is a manage of data, volumes, containers, across cross-tech integrations with Aspire. And the beneficial, of course, is faster, easy development for future-ready any extension that you need to. So for starting the Aspire, this is the application that we have built, simple application just to show you what it needs to be shown. The Aspire itself is only this project. Again, it's just, if you need to do this, you can just add here and you will have to do Aspire orchestration support. It's going to create these two projects for us, these two projects by default, but they are going to be empty projects. So whenever we want to run a chat application, we will need a database to get all our products and put them inside our VectorDB and SQL, of course. So this is how we get our database up and running. You just have to integrate it with your SQL server. If you need, you can have also Postgres or other databases. It's simple. We will need a Redis cache for caching our data. Simple, just add the Redis cache. And here, with the command, this can show a way to see the data that we are caching. And of course, there are some persistence if you need the cache for longer time or lower, it depends. And if you're going to deploy it, you don't have to deploy a container. You can use whatever connection string you have if you need to. And this will reuse your Azure Redis cache everywhere. If you need a storage, you can just simply do it like this. By using Azure Storage, if you want to have a separation between your development environment and your production environment, you simply run as emulator. So if you run it locally, you will have a blob volume with lifetime persistence, so you don't have to start it every single time. But if you are going to production, then you can have this configuration for access tier or for SKUs, whatever you have as a requirement to deploy it, you can just deploy it with these configurations. And of course, there is a blob for taking all images, files, whatever you need to put them, you can just add as a service. every single AI feature application, we will need a vector database. And this is where Quadrant is useful. In Azure, in .NET 10, if I'm not wrong, this capability will be also with SQL Server. So you can just include it as any other database. But in this case, we are using Quadrant. We are persisting the values just to save them for the next round, so it doesn't take too much time. And this is the web application that we are using here. It's just a Blazor UI for the moment. It needs some references to our resources. So it will need a database, it will need the Redis, it will need the blob, and of course a vector database. And this wait for, it says, okay, wait for these resources before you can start web application. Doesn't have to be Blazor, it might be Angular or any other Node.js like React or Vue or whatever you need. You can initialize it and start it here. It doesn't have to be running in Visual Studio. You can run also with Visual Studio Code. It's easy, and you just need to F5 it. There are some tweaks here that I have done for showing the URLs in a different way for Swagger and Scalar. Again, this is not required, but the rest of them are. And if I want to run in development mode, I will have to include Ollama running locally with a volume, which is this here. And if I do have a GPU support, then I can just use the GPU support. If I don't, then it's going to use whatever resource it has. And of course, every Ollama or every chart you need a model. For this one, this is simple model just to show that everything works. And of course, every chart model needs also embedding. And these are the references that we are showing to this web application. So this is the web application that we started here. So this web application. And we are saying, okay, please have a reference to the chart and also the embedding. And if I want to deploy tomorrow, I can just Docker environment or Docker compose. I will show you this later. Saying this, let's start. Before we can continue, I will need a Docker desktop. It doesn't have anything inside of it now. So this is something that I have an image, but it's not related with the project. But if so let's see this one, of course. If I start the application, it's going to show, or it's going to start every single container. First is building all the images using gRPC, and every single container that I specified in C# and I'm running now, it's going to start them and build them, download the images if I need to, and it's waiting for running SQL before it actually runs the web. Let's wait for a couple of seconds. Should be quick, and it is. So as soon as the SQL server is started, I will have the web running here, and these are the tweaks that I have done for the URLs. So if I go to the Blazor, I will see the Blazor application. Here is the chart that we are going to communicate, and here are all the services that I created. So I had a cache, I have a cache command. This can show also here. Here I can see all the information about the cache. For each value, whatever I need is just clicking. I don't have to do anything else. I just seeing the values as they are. Here I will have an SQL server. I can connect to this SQL with SQL inside my Visual Studio or inside other tools. It doesn't matter. It's just a connection string in the end. And this connection string, it's also provided into the web. So if I do connection, environment variables, and I see all the connections here. So if I do have a connection into my course, into my SQL database, I can just do this and I will have every single information that I need to connect it. Just copy paste into SSMS. Of course, I will need the storage for saving the images and the blob storage for that. And I will need a vector database here. So this vector database, I can also have a dashboard for it. There is a key that needs to be specified here, and I think it should be into the secrets, which it is. And this is generated every single time, so it doesn't matter. But as you can see, there is a data ingestion there, and these are the information that are for the vector database. You will see the product, and everything is vectorized. So before we can continue, how did the data come here? So on the startup of our application, there is an initialization extension in which I'm running. Basically say, please go into and initialize our database. If you initialize the database, try to migrate it if there are changes into it. So apply all the migrations possible. And after that, please seed the data. If there is no roles in the database, please add them. If there is no products in the database, please all these products, please add them as a starting point. And if everything is finished with the database, then please include also some collection in vectoring, the one that we saw. So this one, quadrant. So these are all the information that we have, all the graphs that you will need. Everything is here with limitations if you need to. You can specify scripts and you can run them. And all these are built at the startup only once. So every single time you are using the same products. So this context, getting the context from products and then providing this context into and upsetting them into vector database. So all the products are there, and this is what we will see on the UI. So as I said, there are also some scalar with APIs that you can just test just normally. Also the Swagger if you need to, and scalar and Swagger are basically equal. But for the moment, we want to show this one. The API or the application itself is going to have all this data in the vector, and we are saying the chat, please provide me some information depending on those vectoring database. So I go camping. I don't have any tools, and you provide some. Simple. What it does is it gets this message from the user. There is also a system prompt in which says, these are your data. Go search on those data and give me the response using Ollama. The first time it runs, it's going to take some time because it's starting everything. And it says, okay, these are the information that you might need. And like I said, can you citate them? It's going to look into these products, and it's going, hopefully starting soon, it's going to show the products as a card. Let's try one more time. So basically what I'm doing is communicating in a normal language way, and AI will figure it out and say, okay, yeah. So if you want to go camping, you will need a camping tent, you will need a cooking, you will need a lantern. So I didn't specify anything for that reason. Either way, I mistyped some things. but it understands language and it says, okay, these are your tools that we can suggest for you. And it also supports some suggestion for the next question. So if I click this one, it will say, okay, what other camping gears do you need? Or what other camping gears do you have as a product, so I can suggest them to you. While this is doing the magic, let's come back to here, to Aspire. So if I start the project, this is what I'm going to see with it. So I have a list of services in which I built through C#, and I can also look at like a GraphQL. So this is a graph in which it shows all the services that here and here is the same thing, but this is a different visualization. And I see that for the web, I have chat and embedding, and they are using Ollama. And the rest of the things, of course, the rest of the services. If I need to do some view details, I can just right-click it here, and I can also go to the links. I can stop it or restart it, depending on the case. I can logs, traces, metrics, I can see them all. And here are all the informations that are built for this web. And as I showed you before, there are some environment variables, and these are the magic when Aspire works. So it says, okay, let's say I want to SQL Aspire connection string. So it says, okay, I need this configuration. Can you provide it for me? And it says, okay, here is your configuration coming from this database. And it builds everything for you, secrets, user ID, whatever you need to. Also catalog is already there. So all this information, I can come here, and for each service, doesn't matter what service it is. If I have something written in the console, I can just come here and see all logs. I can see all the information that have been added or are being processed at the time. I will see all the logs here. Of course, the SQL is there. There are, as you can see, there are a lot of records and console logs here. If I want to use tracing or structured logs, here is how they look. I can start from the start, and I see all the executions for the database. I can see all the execution depending on your application if you need to, and I can also filter them as needed, or I can filter them depending on the level. If I want to have errors, I don't have any errors because I fixed them. And if I have warnings, of course, I can have a look at the warnings. I can see what information is out there, and this is using open telemetry for getting all the warnings and errors. And if I want to have a look at the information that I have for each one of them, this is how they look. And of course, if I do need to get into a tracing, which is this one over here, and it shows what has been called with our request. So basically, I come back here and say, I want all the tracings for my request that I did for searching. And it says, okay, go to the web and search for Ollama with the text that I sent. And if there is not something in the cache, so Redis cache doesn't have anything, it says, okay, go search them from vector database, and then, of course, put them into the cache. And if I do the same request next time, it's going to get them from the cache instead of vector DB. And that's what it saves a lot of time also in the running. And of course, if there is nothing to do for searching in the vector database, it's just showing the web application how it is running for each request. Here, there are a lot of information for info reasons. But if you want to, again, you can filter them as needed with a name, with a parameter, and if you have conditions for whatever you have to. and there are values, whatever you need to filter by. Super nice, super cool. If you want to stop or pause the loggings, you can do that. If you want to clean up, you can clean up everything or web. And of course, except loggings, you will have also metrics. And this is the cool part of it, because with gRPC, you will see that there are some information that are coming live. Active connection, durations, how much time it took. I can visualize it with the data that I'm showing. I can also see it in a different way, how much data I'm using for the counting. If I have any errors or active connections, queued requests, whatever I need to, I can filter them down depending on the case. There are a lot of metrics here that are showing by default. I didn't do anything for that. Aspire is already having them by default. And it's coming from everything. So console logs, structured logging, traces, and then metrics for things that you need. So the request that I did for camping gears, it says, okay, you might need a hiking pool. Because there are two of them, it's showing them twice, and it shows also the price. It shows also some information for the question that I did. And yeah, pretty much that's the explanation of this project and the demo. Again, you can customize it here as you need. You can pause it if you need to. You can start it again. It's going to work the same. You can run this every single time. Whatever you need to, you're just pushing it, and here it is starting again. No difference from any other normal flow here. If I want to see console log for each one, of course, I can see it also from here. Now, there are some features that are added lately, and there is a Copilot, GitHub Copilot here, in which you can ask questions about your, for example, for traces, warnings, structure warnings here. I can say, okay, please, can you figure it out what this is? And I can ask question here, what is the problem? And this will fix or will show some suggestions or what it is happening and why it is happening, a next step. And this helps a lot on figuring out the error and how you can figure it out to solve it. Again, super nice, super cool to have it. You can also customize it to use different theming, but these are normal stuff. Okay, let's come back to our presentation. As I said, scenario is for the API power search for products. There is a semantic search in there. There is a chat, the data models that are already in the vector database or in the SQL, of course. And there is a beneficial that I can come here, stop this one, and you will see that there are some services that are up and running because of the last time. You see the cache, services, storage, and vector, they are not destroyed. They are going to be reusing the second time. So if I run it the second time or a third time, whatever, it's going to be much faster than the first one. And you will see there are already starting solutions, and there is already a starting web application in a couple of seconds. The rest that is not in the container is going to be built every single time. So these are built every single time, and this one are already there, saving your states between your runs. Okay. Locally we are using Ollama, and this is how we are configuring. So we will have Ollama here for from simple integration or add Ollama from Aspire. You will need a data volume to save the information depending on each run. Of course, there is also a GPU support there, and you will need your chat and your embedding, depending on whatever model you're using. It might be bigger or smaller, depending, but if it's a bigger model, then you will have more data, but it needs more time and you're paying more money for it. And if I want to switch this one into Azure OpenAI, simple. I can just do it with some connection strings for the name, or configurations for resource groups. And I say, okay, instead of Ollama, I'm just using Azure OpenAI here. And that's it. I don't have to change a lot of other code, except that in the configurations, I can show also this part. So in the configuration dependency injections that I'm using, I'm saying, okay, please give me Ollama with chat that you have registered. Try to use distributed cache for optimizing the resources. And of course, please use OpenTelemetry as possible in development environment, make it sensitive. Have an embedding. I need also a Quadrant client to use it to save the information, to upsert it information. And of course, there are semantic search here and vector storage. Nothing crazy, but the way I can switch it from a chat in Ollama into Azure OpenAI client, it's just simple. I just have to use this development or not, and then I can switch between them. Same I can do for embedding, which is going to generate embeddings for me. Same thing I can do for other integrations. Doesn't have to be very complicated. I just need a run mode and I need a deployment mode. And same here, I need the development or production or staging. I can have a condition to figure it out which case I'm going to run. The rest of the code stays the same. There is no change in the code. It's just a configuration problem. So as about the demo, that's it. Aspire Orchestrator is often linked to a compiler. Basically, it says you are defining the application in your C# with the services that you have, and Aspire will compile it to a target environment. And you can use this for deployment, in which you can say, okay, I want to deploy this Docker into container or in Docker Compose or using Bicep, whatever I need, Aspire can build that for me. And here is an example how you can build a Docker Compose files, as simple as running this CLI command is going to build every single service that you have in a Docker Compose. It is simple, it reduces hands-on risk, and it speeds up the cloud and deployment that you have. Executives benefit because teams can just support hybrid models depending on if you are locally, you are using Ollama, or if you are in production, you are using Azure OpenAI. And you can deploy whatever Docker, you can deploy it in Azure. You can also deploy it in AWS. It doesn't make any difference. In the end, it's just Docker Compose or is Kubernetes. Doesn't have to be as simple as this one. There are some dynamic provisions for Azure resources if you need to. These provisions will help you reuse whatever resources you have built the first time. So the second deployment you do doesn't have to create the resources from scratch. It's already there. Just use them as a connection string. Aspire true value is strategic, of course. By standardizing and automations, reduce operation overhead. Companies see this as a cost saving, of course, in development, but also in operations efforts. Start fast, start with whatever you need, as simple as possible. Team can spin up AI features proof of concept in days instead of weeks or months, and become and because it's backed up from Microsoft, it inherits enterprise grade support, and the roadmaps is very good. It's very fast. The problems that you might have, the bugs that you might have, they are fixed fast. This lower technical risk. You are not just writing some custom homegrown script. You are using a platform rather than just something custom, which means saving time, greater agility, better features, more focus on your code and features rather than configuring stuff. Pretty much in a closing, .NET Aspires aim to transform how your team builds software. It aligns with business priority, acceleration invocation, especially for AI-driven features, and moving security into cloud infrastructure like Azure or AWS is easy. By adopting Aspire, you get a modern, development-friendly platform backed up by Microsoft. .NET Aspire is comprehensive platform that speed up development, simplifies cloud integration, make AI adaptation easier for .NET applications. Its strategic value is faster delivering and building best practice, which reduce risk, cost. Aspire leverage full Microsoft ecosystem. Doesn't have to be Microsoft. It might be also Java or Node.js or whatever application you have. It might be open source or closed. As long as it's using Docker, it's simple to integrate it. I will encourage you to consider proof of concept with Aspire if you have to. Evaluate the impact that is going to have into your project and your teams and going live. And if it's really beneficial, try to use it. I would thank you for your attentions, and you are welcome for questions. Let me have a look at Q&A. Okay, there is a question. So what's the primary use case for Aspire for you? I would say that every single application that I will start from last year and on, I will use Aspire for that. So if there is a .NET application that needs a database, that needs a cache, or as simple as a front end or a back end, I would use Aspire for it. It's simple to set it up. You just set it up once, and every person on the team can just F5 it and run everything. Is it for complex application or for a lot of microservice or for simple application? You can start small. You don't have to have a microservice. You can have just a simple application with just a database, just a front end, and just a backend. Again, it will have all loggings for you, all traces for you, all metrics. You can have everything in there in a standard best practice. And you don't have to build them manually. You don't have to wire logging manually. You don't have to wire monitoring manually. You don't have to do a lot of these custom things every single time. It's just once. Give your code to whatever developer, just F5 is going to build all the services for you. So you can start from something simple, but the microservice is the full beneficial that you will get there, because the microservice is having more configurations every single time. And if you want to add one microservice after some weeks or months, again, you have to configure it only once with Aspire and run it through the team every single time. Okay, so another question. So is .NET Aspire the best course of action for AI enabled and integration for new project? What do you think? With .NET Aspire, you will get integrations not just for the AI. You will get it for everything. There is integration for databases. There is integration for AI. There is integration for whatever you need, whatever tool you have. it's already there. If it's not an integration that is built for that tool, then you can build it yourself. Saying this, because Aspire have these integrations, it has also an interface in which is standardized. So you can use the integrations like Ollama or OpenAI, you can use them the same. You just have to register them once, and then you can switch from one solution or from one environment to another with just a simple configuration, if else, nothing else. My suggestion is, please try it, have a look at it, and if it helps, that's nice. If you have questions that we can support you, why not? We are here to help, of course. What else? I can also show a list of integrations. So Aspire so it's, as I said, it's not just for Microsoft, it's for everything. So here you will see, yeah, I can show you also something else, because whenever I want to have an extra integration or an extra service, I need something extra, I can just come here and say, I want to, I can stop this one first. I want to include, for example, an expired packages, because this is how integrations are built. Whatever package I have or whatever package I need, for example, if I want to run a Node.js Angular application in frontend, I can just come here, install it. It's going to download it as a package, and then I can reuse it every single time. Same for RabbitMQ or Dapper or application inside, whatever you need. And here is if you want to develop it or deploy it, sorry, in AWS. So this will help you create all the environments, all the configurations for you, and you can just deploy it. Like as I did in Docker Compose here. By the way, I can open in terminal. As you can see here, this is Aspire published as Docker Compose. And here it's going to build the project for me, and it's going to create Docker Compose. This can be running while I am showing you also some other things. So it doesn't have to be .NET. It can be also Python. It can be also MySQL. It can be, I've seen also Java here. So, yep. So Java is there. I can run applications as easy as that. In my program, as I build this web, I can also run builder now that npm and npm. I don't remember the exact command here. Node.js. Oh, it's building. Yeah, it's building, of course. But as I have this project here, I can also include add npm or add Node.js, and then it's going to build whatever information do I have to do. Again, you can also specify the path in which you want to do something. Let's say if you want to do it like this, blah, 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 you can specify it there. It's just a matter of getting this information here. Let me check. Node.js. Yep, add npm up. So as long as you get this information right, you have to build it only once. That's it, you're done. Nothing crazy to be done there except these things. And it starts your application every single time. This is building the artifacts for me. So yeah, it's building these artifacts there. Yeah, pretty much it. It doesn't have to be .NET. It can be everything. what if I need to run application outside of Docker sphere? Can you specify which application do you need to run it outside? Because the reason why I'm asking it is if there is an integration for that application, then you don't need to run it outside. But if you have to run it outside, for example, if you have a database that it's already there and you cannot change it, cannot switch it, then you can do simple as this one. Builder dot add connection string. And here I can say, okay, test database. And here, that's it, what I need. And in my configurations, I will need to add a connection string to this database, and I'm connected with that database for good. I don't have our test database one, and I just have to configure this database into my web application. So web with reference, and I say, please reference this database. And this will create a connection string into my application, which I can work it same as usually, same as before. This will do the trick. Since you already have the database up and running, you don't have to wait for it because it's up and running somewhere else. Well, the question is, can I run my current application in Aspire without switching over to Docker containers? You are not building Docker containers. Aspire is building Docker containers for you. Saying this, if the application is lower than .NET 8, you can upgrade them. So these applications can be just upgraded here using, for example, if it's in .NET 8, you can upgrade it into .NET 9 with in-place upgrades, and this will allow you to go into Docker containers easy. But in the end, you are not building any Docker files. Everything is built from Aspire for you, and is using gRPC to communicate with your Docker images and Docker containers under the hood. You are not seeing anything. This information that I see here, which I stopped, this information are managed by Aspire by default. Okay, what is the next question? What do you gain switching over the Docker container and comparing to using local setup? Yeah, that's a good question, because if I have to run this solution locally without any Aspire or without any containers, I will need an SQL database. Keep in mind, these services are separated local setup with configurations. From that point, I will need to get this connection string and put it into my web application. And then I will need to make sure that every single time the database is up and running and the service is working. Otherwise, my application will not work. I will need a Redis. So I have to run Redis as a Docker compose or as a connection string. If I do need to have a storage explorer, I need to run an emulator locally, again, separated from your solution. And I will need a vector database. Again, another service, another tool to use it outside of your application. And of course, AI, it's harder to do without the containers or without the connection string into your Azure OpenAI or OpenAI services. Everything that you have in these services, in this list here, they need to be running into another tool or in another IDE or in another Docker images or Docker Compose or Basically, every single component that you have for your application, it's all built in one thing, which is Aspire. And you don't have to run any other tools. This is building, of course, because there is this artifacts there, but in general, you're running just Aspire. You don't have to run anything else. All the images, all the services, all the tools that you are using outside of it, they are not needed anymore. So I would suggest using Aspire. Again, if you are starting with just a simple application with database, backend, and frontend, start with that one, and you will see that there is a big difference, especially on the configurations that you do once, and the rest of the teams is just using those configurations. But you are not limited to use Aspire way every single time. This shows that you can run also outside connection strings, outside databases, outside services, with just getting those connections and working with those connections. That's it. Okay. Then hopefully I returned all the answers for your questions. In this case, I would thank you everyone for being here. I hope I see you guys in the next webinars. Here is some helpful links that you can use. You can scan this this QR code, and you will have contacts to CIGen. Or if you want to follow us in LinkedIn for future webinars, it's already in the plans. Again, I would thank you for joining in this live demo and of course Q&A. We hope today's session gave you some useful ideas and tools that you can explore in your Azure projects or AWS projects, cloud projects in general. If there is a specific topic that you would like us to cover in a future webinar, we would love to hear from you. Just drop your suggestion in the chat. And of course, you can contact us and make some suggestions in LinkedIn, of course. Feel free to follow in LinkedIn pages, and see you in the next webinar. Thank you again. And if everything is finished with the questions, I would say bye-bye to you guys.